Hello everyone, hope we're all doing well. Welcome back to another episode of CSGO News. I hope you guys all enjoy because we've had an insane week over here. I am tired and I know you guys want to hear the news. It's not too big of a story out there, but some crazy stories as well. Just some short stories out there I wanted to share with all of you before we come back Monday and break down tournament results and things that are going on. And speaking of going on, that being the major qualifier runs have begun for many teams out there, but of course a few steps back, that being the open qualifiers for many of the minors out there. It's going to be a long and strenuous process. We'll talk about that as we do go on, as there are many new teams out there up and coming to try and make their run, and hopefully this time around we're going to see a QBF, a win strike, the likes of some surprise teams out there make it to the major qualifier, or at least some minors out there in some regions, and it's going to be nice to see some new teams and new faces pop up along with them. But of course, biggest story out there, that being the surprise, it's actually Dead, the current MIBR manager, coming forward with some insane truths about back in 2018 when that roster was going to make two placements or two big changes for that roster itself in terms of acquiring two new members, and he told us some things that I just had to share with all of you. And I know it's not really news, what rosters could have been, talking about this many months ago. We found out via a podcast, and Hector actually coming forward and saying this, of course, the former owner of Optic Gaming, not to bring it up in this, kind of shallow time for that organization and the future of them to be decided sometime soon, but he actually brought up a long time ago that when he was with Optic Gaming, I believe back in late 2016 or sometime throughout 2017, they had the chance to acquire the now Astralis members. So, what rosters could have been is pretty insane, and there's a lot of things that I'm sure you and me do not even hear about when it comes time for these rosters. So when this news comes forward, it is pretty insane to see the people that MIBR was actually targeting. It was actually, first of all, I never would have guessed it, NiKo and Shox was the first one on their list, but according to Dead as well, it was actually Shox because of his wife. He could not relocate. Then it became NiKo and Rain, but Rain did not want to, and then they moved on to a different pairing, that being Simple and Crims. Unfortunately enough, though, Crims did not want to, so you go down these three duos and you think, wow, what a random assortment. Of course, the NiKo being the staple there, then alongside Simple as well. NiKo and Shox, Shox couldn't, then we have NiKo and Rain couldn't, then you go down to Simple and Crims, and apparently due to contracts, or I think it was actually Crims, it could not work out. You stick it out with Simple, though, of course you want him as well. It came down to Simple and Flamey. This was definitely the rumor we heard about. I remember covering this back in the day where people thought, okay, it was going to be Simple and Flamey possibly joining them. People either were of the fact that no way this can happen, or wow, it actually is possible. We did find out at that current time as well that it was a $1.4 million buyout supposedly of those two players, but how close they came, I had no idea about this. Dead came forward and said, yes, it was actually Flamey who was at the airport ready to go, and it was Simple who then told him he was not going to be coming, and of course without him, Flamey would not go either. They were at the airport ready to pretty much solidify their spots in the MIBR roster, and they decided to, Simple of course, decided to stay back home as well, which is crazy. I obviously never would have guessed it was that close of a call when it came to that roster, and he actually closes it out by saying the fifth duo they were looking at, to replace this roster with, and of course none of them came to fruition, was Stewie2K and Automatic, and that's why I have, of course, the most loyal member of Cloud9 I think we will ever see, that being Automatic. The number of players and teammates that Cloud9 has lost of Automatic, and he has stayed through it all, Stewie leaving, of course, being one of those players to leave eventually, but this deal did fall through initially because Automatic would not go. So of course Stewie eventually went there anyway, but Automatic did stay, by far and away the most loyal Cloud9 member we have seen, especially over the past 2 years. And it's just insane to see how close these things actually came to be, how close this roster came to changing forever. And I know I don't usually share this kind of stuff as news, but that's because most people out there as managers or anyone inside an organization just never reveals the details of how close these things came to be. And I love the transparency personally. I think that there are a lot of pro players out there on both sides of the argument of actually sharing these kind of details of, which players you're going to choose and which players you're not going to. I think we actually saw Optic's coach as well. He came out and said he did not like it because there were other mentions in this article as well where they did come forward and say about Serato. They were going to obviously have him signed to the roster, but they were worried about his age and him being too young and inexperienced, and so he was very transparent. He came out with every single detail about who MIBR was going to pick up and why, who fell through and why exactly, and also talking about why they did not pick up people like Serato. I understand for sure why there are both sides of this, but I personally, of course, as a news channel, love the transparency, and it's crazy to see who could have been on MIBR, but instead they stick it out in general, besides, of course, Tark and Stewie with a Made in Brazil roster. And in crazy news, guys, crazy rumors out there, talk of the town, according to Flora. I love you, Flora. She's our Chinese source, if you guys do not know, via Twitter, and yes, she's brought us some pretty cool information. I'm really sorry, I think I'm going crazy this Friday, but she's brought us information about apparently a brand new Tyloo roster could be coming sometime soon. It's actually, first of all, currently Vici Gaming member, that being Freeman, apparently sought after by many Chinese teams out there. there, Tai Lu being one of them, who could, according to their manager, actually be making changes within the next month. This would be one of the many teams out there making changes before their major run does begin, or of course during that major run if it does go through. And unfortunately enough, we are seeing many teams, of the likes of FaZe and Heroic recently, North as well. I can name a lot of rosters out there, and certainly we'll make an individual video about this, because our last major we saw 15 plus teams making roster changes within 3 to 4 months of the major, and this major could be very similar to that, and Tai Lu very well could be one of them. And now comes the talk. I've been talking back and forth between Flora as to exactly rumors in the Chinese scene of who they would be replacing with Freeman on the roster. It seems very likely Attacker, one of their newest acquisitions. Of course, if you guys remember, Attacker in summer, they came from the now disbanded Flash Gaming organization. According to her, it could be Attacker most likely because of his recent times with the team. In terms of statistics, he is certainly one of their worst performers, but also even more peculiar, there are talks around China apparently about it also being Ben Tet to leave the roster. Now hear me out. Obviously we talked back and forth. This does not make the most sense, or any sense really. He is by far and away their most impactful player, their best player, their biggest fragger, whatever you want to call it, guys. But when it comes to communication, this Tai Lu roster has always struggled with the lack of communication. It's been a talk of the town for probably a couple of years now within the organization. Whenever they come out with HLTV interviews, they always talk about the lack of communication between their players, and a lot of a big portion of that as well would be the acquisition of Ben Tet to the roster on top of that. So yes, it would make no sense. Impact wise, it would make no sense. They would certainly be hurt in the fragging power category, but if they can communicate, of course, can that offset each other? You lose your best player, but you gain a lot of communication. Can that actually be the fix for this roster? I think a lot of us agree it would not be the ultimate fix for them, but again, they probably would. It really comes down to what they think, not what we think. So the rumors are right now that Freeman could be replacing Attacker most likely. It could be Ben Tet to improve communication, but as of right now, we do not have any idea if they will guaranteed make these changes, although talk of the town says they will sometime during their major run. If they even can make it again to the major with this roster is going to be an entirely new question, as we have many teams out there, especially in the Asian scene, many pro players we once thought were the best in the top of the Asian scene, that being former Tai Lu members themselves, Mo and DD. They've actually came back to competitive CSGO a few months ago with a brand new mixed team, and that brand new mixed team has now lost in a best of one for the open qualifier run themselves for the major. So they have now been cut short. I do believe there are multiple qualifiers, so they have another chance, but as you guys know, the run to actually make it even to the minor is full of a lot of best of ones. If you fall off in just one match, well, that can be it for your run itself. We've seen many ex-pro players, or of course current pro players, try this run themselves, especially in the Swedish scene. Boys like Micah Lely and Pith have tried to make their runs back, and the best of ones can be killer. When you look at the scoreboard as well, they are certainly by far and away the best players on their mixed team, but either way, those are the Asian rumors out there. If you guys want more rumors to be talked about in the show in the future, let me know. I know it's not, of course, finite information. It's not going to be definitely going to be happening, but it could be happening, and I love talking about that kind of stuff. And that is it for this episode of CSGO News. I will see you guys back here maybe tomorrow. I also have giving you guys a sneak peek as well, because it's a bit of a shorter episode in terms of how many stories we have here today. Here's a video I'm working on about the rules in Indian CSGO and the chaos we have seen so far in the past week and a half. If you guys have not heard about this, I will certainly break it down sometime next week and talk about some Indian pro players out there who are following some rules and then complaining about other rules that are equally it's confusing. It's a very confusing situation. I cannot wait to break it down for all of you, because that scene, ever since Forsaken came to it, has been an absolute bombshell. But as always, hope you guys all enjoy. Crazy week. Thank you for all the subs, all the comments, all the likes. You guys, you don't understand how much I appreciate you guys, and I cannot wait to see you back here sometime Monday. We have new series ideas, new videos coming up almost every single day, and I am working my patootie off to try and please you guys. But again, thank you all for watching. I will see you back here Monday or sometime soon. Until then, take care, drink water. Bye.